another place without me, or in ecstasy, and I'm left wondering. You push, you beg me to feel it, I push.
Okay, and we're back officially. I think we're live now, so we're good to go. I have my pen because I've got my notepad. I was furiously scribbling notes as I was watching Mulan 3 hours ago.
Yes. Oh no. Okay, so I finished watching it last night. Like I was gonna watch that and Wonder Woman, and then I was like, oh my god, Wonder Woman is 2.5 hours long, and I go to bed at 10:30. So that didn't happen. But Mulan, not gonna say that I'm obsessed, but I have lots of good things. So yeah.
Wonder Woman 1984 can be our next discussion. But first and foremost, welcome back, everybody, to ESP, the Eryn Spencer podcast, for our first official show of 2021.
Really?
Yes, this is our first official show. I'm trying to describe it more often as just ESP, just because it's more. I like it. It fits, and it's kind of a catchy moniker. But it's not just about me. It's more about my original inspiration was for the Joe Rogan Experience, so I tried to find something that fit with that, and ESP kind of fits with that. But working on some rebranding. We'll get back to you.
We'll also do SE, like ESE, the Eryn Spencer Experience. I mean,
I like that.
Girl, don't you?
Yes, I do. I go by Essie on Twitch for anyone that doesn't know. But welcome back, Sammy. It's good to see you again.
I know.
In this capacity.
You in person since like we social distance in my mom's backyard.
I was gonna say you're a social distance birthday party, right?
I know, because I'm 30.
Did you get a chance? Speaking of Disney, did you get a chance to try out the?
No, when it's safe. Because it's like you can't have like 4 people over for a board game night, you know.
Yeah.
So
that is the Disney's Villains board game that I found.
Once we're vaccinated, we're playing.
You can buy it at any major retailers because I found it at Target.
Yeah.
So
it's super cool.
It looked really cool, and it's I just read up on some of the basics, just a Disney kind of tabletop board game hybrid. But it looks really, really great. They have expansions for it and everything, where you can get expansion packs for different sets of villains.
I know that. Oh my god, that's gonna be great.
Yeah. I think there's 2. I think there's 2 expansion packs that have all different additional Disney villains that you can add and expand to.
Yes, because this one had Scar, Ursula, Dr. Facilier from, that's his name, right? From
Princess and the Frog. Yep.
Dr. I can't remember who the fourth one is.
Which is funny because Dr. Cillier is the villain, right? Yes. Well, yeah. Okay. It's villains.
Yeah.
I answered my own question. So my ex-boyfriend actually had a really good cosplay for Dr. Cillier. That was his favorite cosplay, and we talk about that all the time because it came out so well.
Nice. I wanted to be Scar and have crispy Hades for Halloween, but it didn't work out. But I did do a pretty cool Scar makeup on myself, which actually, can we start with TikTok because it'll be shorter?
I was just going to say there was a TikTok I found with someone doing Scar makeup.
And I saw somebody doing it, and I taught myself how to do it. And obviously I'm not a makeup artist, so it didn't come out as good, but it was so much fun. I even ordered like a white contact to do the Scar. And anyway, I love TikTok. I'm obsessed with TikTok.
Me too.
I think it's so great. So not only did young people use it to embarrass and humiliate and isolate Donald Trump, which
yeah, that was huge.
But it's cool. Like there's so many little like niche TikToks, and you can find ones for special effects makeup or beauty makeup. Of course, I follow like a dozen hilarious teachers, or sometimes not even hilarious teachers, like classroom
Teacher talk.
Teacher talk. And then like, of course, Harry Potter has popped up in mine. But like, I love sign language. I took a few years of sign language when I was in college, and there's a lot of really awesome deaf TikTokers. And it's great because you not only are you getting sign language, but you're getting the sign language from these young people's perspective, and
Right.
it's educating people more about deaf, capital D, deaf culture. And it's awesome. You know, there's people that have like, they've got tens of thousands of followers, and it's amazing and sometimes hilarious and really educational. I love it. Yeah. And then, you know, just random funny things.
Well, it's really
Sorry,
great for
going by.
yeah. Well,
Sorry.
no, that it's great. It's really great for what you said is like niche little communities.
Yeah.
So there's that one guy who does survival requests. Like he'll go and camp out in the woods, and it's can you make a tomahawk, or can you make a kunai, or can you make an
Yeah.
whatever? And he makes these things from scratch for whatever he finds in the woods. And then there's the guy that does the cooking in the woods with the like he slaps the meat and does the slow. I don't know if you've seen any of these, but out in the woods, he's got like a little kettle set up on sticks. And then there's obviously a lot of people that do makeup tutorials, and there's a lot of positivity for the trans community and the queer community in general on there as well. Pirate Talk, Queer Pirate Talk is
No,
probably my favorite
I've got,
sub channel.
I have to find that then. That sounds amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm gonna go. I am on the verge of going to yell at Chris and tell him to be quiet. I don't know if you can hear that or if I'm
I
being.
can't. I can't hear anything. I don't know if Lucy can, but I'm not I'm not picking up anything on my headphones.
He has a very loud
Yeah.
voice. So yeah, no, TikTok, I love it. I really, really love it. And then like all the little life hacks too, you know, that people do. And I don't know, I'm gonna go yell at him. I'm sorry.
No, that's totally fine.
Yeah, so TikTok, I think it's amazing. I think it's incredible. It's super funny. I don't know how the algorithm works. I mean, I know that like if you
I
like
don't
one
either.
thing, a million other videos with one of those hashtags or related hashtag is gonna pop up. I haven't hit the jackpot yet, but you know, for infrequent, mediocre content, people can follow me at Smack820. Just
All
throwing it
right,
out
Smack
there.
820.
Just
Little
throwing it out
shameless
there
plug. I love it.
for
Absolutely.
mediocre, infrequently posted content. Yeah, feel free to follow me. So that
As someone who is fervently riding the D&D train, I will say my favorite new phrase I learned for the D&D community. We'll put it in the doobly doo when we put the video on YouTube.
interesting. I have not heard that one yet.
Yeah, so the description started by MCDM, Matt Colville, Dungeon Master, and also Jordan, the PH is silent on YouTube, both D&D content creators, both. And it's kind of a running gag within the D&D community. For anyone that does YouTube is the doobly-doo.
Doodle-doo.
We'll put the links and the descriptions down in the doobly-doo.
I'm going to start using that with my kids and see what they think.
Yeah.
I'm always
So
trying to be cool and hip. Doesn't
yeah.
always work out.
It's very niche. It's like if they're not in the D&D community, they'll be like, what?
Yeah, but they're little, so I'm just priming them for it.
Okay, gotcha.
So
That's been one of my main focuses, by the way,
nice.
is D&D. We've been doing that on the Twitch channel mostly, streaming D&D, and obviously playing D&D with smaller groups via Zoom or Discord.
I have yet to play any games via Zoom, like group games. I keep talking about it, and then I don't.
You should play D&D with us. Join us.
We'll see. I've been trying to do Cards Against Humanity, but I don't know, it just falls apart. People are flaky. They don't have to be there in person. They're super flaky. You'd think it would be like easier for people to commit to things because they literally can do it from their own couch or bathroom, like wherever you are, or guest room or destroyed office, you know.
After coming from an in-person D&D session every Friday, I can tell you that yes, this is correct. I remember what my segue was. I was going to talk about so our D&D group, the one that we stream on Twitch, shout out to the Crystal Coven Chimeras. We are actually an online coven of witches, and we play D&D together. So it's all witches trying to tackle the Lich, the Demi-Lich Asarak, and the Tomb of Annihilation. So it's this really interesting dynamic where there are these ancient mysteries, and it's can this group of witches actually survive the Tomb of Horrors? Probably not, because it's meant to kill off characters. Everyone has a backup ready. But my DM style is not that aggressive when I run the game. I tend to be a little bit more
I should
laid
play.
back.
I've played D&D so infrequently. Like I've never been a part of a real committed D&D group.
Yeah.
So, but it's so fun. And anytime like it's, it pops up more frequently in pop culture now, like in TV shows and movies. And anytime I watch it, I'm like on the edge of my seat, like as the dungeon master is laying the scene. And like, as people are, oh my God, I'm like on the edge of my seat watching it. Like I want to play it so badly. But I mean, I'm one of those people who will like not actually commit. So
Right. Well, I'm wondering and hoping maybe our Crystal Coven Chimeras and our Witchy D&D group will inspire you. Who knows? But we'll be streaming this Saturday, actually, so I'll just send you a link.
oh
You want to
yeah.
pop in and say hello?
Anything next week that I can like do but not do is wonderful because it's school vacation week. And good Lord, have I deserved a fun vacation.
It seems like it. I do see your teacher talks. But
all right. So
another segue for Witch Talk, by the way, which is
yeah, which is or I mean, I wasn't going to talk about myself. I was going to use that as the dive in for Mulan.
I mean, please do.
We'll circle back and unpack.
Okay. Yes. Okay.
But
check off your bingo cards.
Amazing things. Let's dive into Mulan and spoilers for people who haven't seen the new Mulan.
Yes. Red bot spoiler warning.
Every change that they made to this movie was so intentional and corrected so many things from the previous film. Not that this version is perfect, not that there was anything like, I mean, the 1998 Mulan was beautiful and amazing, and I love it, but there was definitely a lot of flaws in terms of character, in terms of how culture was represented, and I know that I'm a white chick, so I don't have a lot of room to go off and talking about other people's culture, but I loved this new Mulan, and I loved all of the changes, and I especially loved the introduction of this new character who is a witch. Although I hate the way they use that word witch. They use it.
Same. I was thinking that the whole time.
I call her a sorceress in my head because the way they say witch, I mean, it's burning at the stake. Like you're a witch, you know, shun. I hate it, but I love her so much.
And they kind of treat her as such as well. But I really, really enjoyed seeing her actually fight. That one scene where she was using the
oh my God, the claw.
Yeah, and I think that is some form of, I don't know if it's just a theater art, but I see that in a lot of movies. So I'd be curious to know what cultural significance that has.
Yes. But so I love this woman, and her entire being it's very interesting. It brings up a lot of like juxtapositions or ironic pairings. You know, we talk about this word witch and the way they say it, and like just the connotation and
it's a good segue, by the way,
attitude that's in it. But then at the same time, she reveals to Mulan that the whole reason she's with Boy Khan is because he treats her as an equal. Like he recognizes her power. And everyone else recognizes her power too, but they see it as this horrible, evil burden. Whereas, and I mean, he's using her and she's aware of it. He's using it's better for her. It's better to be seen for the power that she has and still not being totally accepted than to be hated by everyone. You know what I mean? To be completely unaccepted. It's better for her to be like somewhat accepted and viewed as maybe not equal, but not so far lesser than. It's better for her to have this like fake acceptance and fake respect and be able to use her powers than it is to be completely like dejected and a stereotypical witch who lives all by herself alone in the woods.
Yeah.
And it mirrors Mulan in a way. You know what I mean? Like for Mulan, when she finally starts to become this great soldier, it's great. And she feels like she's sort of making up for the shame that she's brought to her family, and she's justifying the reasons why she left, but she's not truly accepted. So it's really cool that they put those two characters together to juxtapose each other, but also mirror each other. It's yeah.
Yeah, no, it's a trope that I really like to use in D&D a lot, which is there's a villain, there's a morally gray, or a villain that's really ends up being someone that you sympathize with completely, that is portrayed as a villain that knows your secrets, and that's a big thing that
Oh my
we
God,
bring up in D&D a lot.
but when they're alone, and she
Yeah,
calls her out for pretending
yeah,
to be a man and not being true to herself. And oh my God, whatever the narrator was, when the sorceress tries to kill her and kills her male persona, and he says,
yeah.
and he did die so Mulan could live. Oh God, all the
Yes.
feels, all the chills. I was like, this is amazing. It
I,
was just, oh
I
God.
I really like the development that the actress did. She started off flat, as did the
Yeah.
new Shan Yu. Shan Yu is now Bori Khan, and for most of, I say, the first third of the movie, or the first act, I should say, it was very meh, and it felt,
So I have to say, I did
yeah,
not, the first like 30 minutes, like you said, I was not pulled in, but I'm like, nope, Eryn and I have to talk about this. Like, watch
yeah.
this film, Samantha. And then,
Well, I was watching it with Colin, and the very first 10 minutes, both of us were like, "This is kind of cringy." Like with
yeah, oh,
the acting at the very beginning was with her father was a little. It just seemed like it fell flat, and it was forced. It
it
felt
did.
forced.
It did very much so.
Like they had to get through that to get to the meat, which is really Donnie Yen carrying the story. But I am a huge Donnie Yen fangirl. I love all of Donnie Yen's work, from Ip Man to Star Wars, and then again here it was brilliant. Everything he's ever done it's just gold,
Mm,
and he just steals the show every time he's on camera, regardless of in what capacity or what medium or what genre.
yeah. But no, I agree with you. In the beginning, it's like, it didn't have the same shift, because
Yeah,
so in the 1998 version, it is very much a comedy, a comedy, a comedy, a comedy until the end of A Girl Worth Fighting For, and all of a sudden it's a war
it's a
movie.
great song, by the way. I did miss the original songs.
I missed it, but I have to say, okay, during her training, when they're playing these instrumental bits in the background, when she's going through this
I'm
intense,
glad you said that.
and it's also it's stylized in a way that
Mhm.
echoes ancient China as well. So it was so beautiful. But that's funny. It's the thing that I noticed about this movie when I was watching it, and what how I've characterized it to people since, is this is not a Disney movie. This is a war movie, and it's yeah, it just surprised me, and I'm like, oh wait, yeah, this is PG-13. But I have to say, I think it might be my favorite Disney remake, because it actually brought such originality to it, and it is so beautiful. Like even in those 30 minutes in the beginning where we're not pulled in, where it's very flat, it's visually stunning. Oh my God, it's visually stunning.
Yeah.
And like, so even with, I was so, and all of the reds and oranges and yellows, like all of these colors, especially the reds that you would see that represent ancient China. Oh my God, it's just so beautiful. And I visually, I was just, it was amazing.
Well,
Um,
that's very much a part of Chinese cinema,
yes.
in general, which is really, uh, really enjoyable and pleasing just to the eye to watch.
Mhm.
Which is what I mentioned, the use of cloth and the use of bright, vivid colors. It was just one of my favorite things to see,
Mm,
and whether it's Ip Man or The One, or um, there's just so many great movies between Donnie Yen and Jet Li specifically, who are two of my favorites. That's a recurring theme in Chinese cinema.
mm. And I mean, it works so well. Some other things that I loved about it. Um, Okay, so more differences from the original. The fact that they don't try to shoehorn in this love story.
Yes, I was happy for that.
Was amazing. And at the end, you know, she goes to leave and he wants something a little bit more, right? But it's ambiguous as her feelings to him. You know what I mean? Maybe there is a spark there. Maybe it's just this deep bond from the training and war that they experienced. But to me, it wasn't forced in the way it is in the animated
Well,
film.
1998 Disney, a lot of that stuff was forced.
Of course. Oh, of course,
The
of course.
forced love interest, yeah.
But the whole, but also like, and you know what? That's one thing that we can talk about in terms of um LGBT representation. In the original Mulan, this person who is presenting as a different gender, her feelings for somebody are a joke. Like that, you get comedic feedback in the animated version because it's like, oh no, what if he finds out? And like, oh my gosh, so dreamy type thing. And
Right.
it's supposed to be funny. And I mean, it was 1998, and you know, it's not like it's not like they were mocking her for what she was going through. But I mean, you know, anytime he looked at her funny or she, you know, her heart like fluttered because they had a moment, it was like this awkward, like, oh, but he doesn't know type thing. And you don't have
Right.
to deal with that in this movie, in the new version. It doesn't take away from it. It doesn't take away from Mulan's journey, which is amazing.
I'm really, really glad you mentioned that because there's a lot of things that I want to specifically bring up about Mulan, and just in doing so much work with the LGBT QIA community in the last few years, and also specifically within the trans community, and being a part of several little niche trans communities. There's an ongoing discussion, and there has been for a couple
22
decades now. Yeah.
22 years.
About Mulan, and it's very, and here's the thing. Here's the thing that I think is going to be the most important thing that we talk about in this episode is there's this dichotomy of, is Mulan a piece about people who are non-binary? Is it a love story to trans men, or is it a female empowerment piece? I feel like it wants to be all three, and that it has evolved into all three, especially culturally. But it can't be all three, and it really needs to pick one, unfortunately, because there's the use of the binders that I really want to talk about, because I know that that is very, very important for both
Oh,
non-binary folks and trans men. The binder, when you see, and again, I know from what everyone is saying, and from the story as we've seen twice now, Mulan seems like she uses she, her, possibly she, they, but they never even talk about that. They just always refer to Mulan as she, her, and Mulan also refers to herself as she, her. So I think for the purposes of the way that it was written, whether or not you think it's correct, just I think just for the purposes of that, you know, we're going to say she, or we can say she, they. But there's the binder scene where you see Mulan take off the binder, and she has that breath of relief, which is binder fatigue, which is a real thing. And
mhm.
we just had this discussion in our Witchcord server where we talked about there's a lot of non-binary folks, a lot of non-binary witches in that server, and they've taught me so much. And another thing is binder fatigue. So when you wear a binder for so long, whether you're non-binary or trans masculine or a trans man, you really get this intense, sometimes pain and fatigue and complications. And when you see Mulan just let it out, and but still being cautious and guarded, and then that scene at the end where the binder literally saved
Saves her life.
their life,
Okay,
and
I
she
have
looks at it. Yeah,
conflicting feelings about that though. I have conflicting feelings about that though, in that like, I mean, obviously that can speak to so many things where like a binder, if that helps somebody express the gender that they truly are,
absolutely.
can be a life-saving thing, right?
Yeah,
It can be a life-saving thing, absolutely. Or even in terms of horrifically violence, if your binder helps you pass, that can save your life, literally, from a hate crime, right?
Yeah.
A binder. And like we said here, but then there was some part of me that feels conflicted about it because, like, I'm not sure how I want to word this. There was some part of me that felt conflicted, like that, like I said earlier, I loved it. It said like he died so that Mulan can live. So I don't,
Yeah.
in my mind, it's not really a trans story
Yeah.
because Mulan, they specifically say Mulan lives. Um, but
Yeah.
I
I
felt,
feel like the story itself has always been conflicted, which was
yeah,
what.
I
Yeah.
just felt conflicted about it, like that this part of her, the reason that like I felt conflicted is this part of her had to die, like this part of her that she
Mm,
worked so hard to attain had to die.
yeah.
I don't know, almost that like that the binder, in a sense, it's not that it saved her, it was like sacrificed. So if you're
Yeah.
thinking about it in terms of a trans story, it looks like, oh, you have to sacrifice this outer representation of yourself, which in terms, and don't let me speak for you, but in terms of a trans story, like, no, like you should not have to sacrifice how you want to present yourself to the world.
Yes.
You do not
100%.
have to sacrifice that. And this is where I feel a little conflicted because, like, I know it's about Mulan finding her acceptance, but it's like, oh wow, she was finally accepted as this man, and now it has to die. So I feel conflicted, like, because like I said, I did love the whole he died so that she could live because it was Mulan finding herself. But if
That's
you're
the female empowerment piece. That's the feminist
exactly, but
piece.
I feel conflicted because if you're looking at it from a trans story, I think it has some
It's
icky.
yeah, because it's ripped away from you in that
Yes,
moment as a
thank
trans person, and even in the original 1998 version, a lot of again trans men, trans masculine individuals, and non-binary individuals would say that Mulan was great up until that point. Probably, I haven't talked to any of my friends about it specifically about the new film, but I know in the original that was a recurring conversation. It's they give you a little tease of being a trans allegory, and then they rip it away from you and say, no, it's sort of this Disney take on female empowerment,
mm,
and all the other stuff was just a narrative plot device,
yes,
which
and I like
I
the
don't
way
like.
phrased it there, the fact that it was ripped away from her. I
Yeah,
think that's the biggest thing, because it wasn't on her terms. However, I have to say, in the 1998 version, she is, if we're thinking about it in terms of a trans story or a gender
right.
non-conforming story, she is outed to
Uh,
them.
but but
They,
again, just a quick point of order is that she does use again she her. I feel like that's important. So as people don't think I want to have that moment where I say no, we have to be respectful because Mulan uses she they, but they don't even give Mulan the opportunity to use they in either of the stories. So it's like
yeah,
what do we do?
I am Mulan, right?
Yeah,
I mean, we can say they for the sake of the fact that Mulan never really actually gets to identify, whatever pronoun is best reflective of this person. So we can just say they because everybody is a they. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Everybody. There's no gender attached to they. I mean, we say it all the time. I hate when people are like, "Oh, how can it be they?" And it's like, have you ever answered the phone like when you were a kid back before caller ID was a thing? You answer the phone and your mom's like, "Who is it?" And you're like, "Oh, they didn't say." You know what I mean? Like we've
yeah.
been doing that for so long without it being. So I'm sorry, I'm getting sidetracked. I just hate society. Like the
No,
marginalized group
that's
tries to
fine.
take the second a marginalized group tries to take ownership of something like the word they, everyone is like, that's too confusing. And it's like, what are you talking about? No, it's not. But anyways, Mulan.
What's the name of the Panic at the Disco guy? Brandon Urie, or is that some?
He,
No,
he
that's
was
someone.
he was terrible in Kinky Boots. I'm sorry, he was terrible. I'm gonna get hate for
Panic
that. But
at
anyway, yeah,
the
Brendan Urie,
Disco.
Brendan Urie. But so the one thing that I will say is different, and I thought
Yeah,
was a good correction in this one. In the 1998 version, Mulan is outed. The tent is opened. They see their wounds, and it is disgust and dishonor immediately. Mulan had no way out of this. It
yeah,
was You know what I mean? Because they sustained these injuries, and when the injuries were treated, it's like, oh, you're a woman, or you are not a man. Whereas in the 2020 version, Mulan returns to her battalion. Or sorry,
Yeah.
excuse me.
No, well, I think she, they are both correct in the situation. I think we can rotate she, her, and then they, them, just because Mulan does have that. And again, this is where there's this ongoing identity crisis the story has, where there's this really great trans allegory in the middle, but then Mulan herself is empowered by the fact that she's able to be herself in that moment towards the end, where I think it's more appropriate to use as she identifies and self-identifies herself as she, her. I think they, them might be more appropriate when talking about middle portions of the movie, but towards the end, she does seem to be empowered by being able to present in a feminine way, and also wield a blade and wield martial prowess, and that's the feminist piece of it, that which I think a lot of women and feminine presenting people really connect with and identify with, is being able to have, you know, maybe a mix of what are generally considered to be masculine things, like being proficient with a blade or martial arts or other weapons. I mean, she's proficient with, I think, 4 or 5 different weapons, which is great.
She can do parkour. She can run up the wall. I mean, they all can. It's amazing. But no, and honestly, that's, so it is, for me, obviously, it is more of a female empowerment thing. And it's no surprise that as a kid, Mulan was my favorite Disney movie, because I was very much a tomboy. And while I am cis, when I was young, I hated my name. I hated Samantha. I was always Sam. I actually went through a period of time where I asked people to call me Mike when I was younger. I hated anything feminine. I had a fit anytime my mom wanted to put me in a dress. I hated it. I felt comfortable in jeans, and my mom let me dress myself on my first day of first grade, and I wore construction boots, denim jeans, and a Goosebump t-shirt and a hat. And I hated everything feminine, and it made me feel just yuck. I felt awkward and uncomfortable, and that was just me coming to terms with how I fit into feminine gender roles, because I'm not trans, I am cis, but for me, you know, and it was like, I remember one Christmas, I asked for a a carpentry like belt and toolkit, because I wanted to build birdhouses with my dad, and that was like, no, the answer was no, basically. And so for me, when I saw Mulan as this woman who, yeah, she couldn't dress as a girl, but she ended up doing all these badass things. And then in the end, it was like, oh, you are a girl and you can do these things. That's awesome. So for me as a kid, that was great. You know what I mean? So for me as a child who struggled with gender expectations, I loved Mulan so much, and I still love it now, but I do love, I think this more because they got rid of the unnecessary romance, and it focuses more on Mulan as a, yes, it's her as a person, but like there's bigger, more far-reaching impacts. I mean, I feel like it was more respectful of culture in general. I feel like it
absolutely,
like, oh, one thing, oh my God, I know it doesn't matter to me whether it's the Huns or the Rorans, but think like the goddess. The Huns in the 1998 version are like non-human, like entities. They have gray purple skin and yellow eyes. Like, beat us over the head, Disney, with the fact that they're villains. Like, we get it. But in general, I think it was a more whole, respectful movie. But yeah, so
historical for all things considered. They did their best to add historical elements.
But so when I was, when I was a kid, it was I don't know. I don't even know if you like, sure, female empowerment, but for me it was so important to have somebody that did not conform to these gender roles and was still able to be a woman. That was really important for me as a kid, because my own family made fun of me. Like, I wanted to be called Mike, and I wanted to build birdhouses with my dad, and I didn't want to do dance or gymnastics or wear a dress, And the answer was no. So
Well, that kind of makes it seem like more of a story about gender fluidity, which
yeah,
would be great. I think that's a discussion worth bringing up or having, because with gender fluidity, sometimes you feel masculine, sometimes you feel feminine. Sometimes you can feel one way or another for long stretches of time. Sometimes you identify somewhere in the middle of the gender spectrum. And I think that's a really, really cool point to bring up, is that it could also be a gender fluid or a gender flux, which is my favorite term.
Ooh, I like
Um,
that a lot.
yeah.
That kind of picks a little thing in my heart, because it's, yeah, I struggled to find a form of femininity that worked for me.
Yeah.
My whole, still now, like even now, I have sometimes I'm like, I don't know how to dress myself, and I don't know how to present myself. I
That's
really
okay. I
like,
don't either. I'm learning. It's
like,
yeah.
like in a way that like is acceptable. There's so much societal pressure on anybody who identifies as female. It's such bullshit.
Yeah. It's a lot. And a lot of times your average, cis man has a hard time understanding or relating. But
Yeah, it's, I don't know, and it's funny working with kids now. I feel like they are definitely more able than we were to
yeah.
these things.
Yeah, because if you think about when we were in middle school or high school, at that point, I didn't even know that trans people existed, which is why I hadn't even considered transitioning. I
Right.
was just
You're just,
me, and I existed in this weird space.
because the only term that I knew, unfortunately, was like a cross dresser or a transvestite.
Yeah.
Which was, you know what I mean? That was the only term that I knew, which is
Which are so
so
awful now,
awful.
all things
So
considered. Yeah.
awful. I know. And
Well, there is a ACD community out there, but genuinely, and I think I brought this up before, I have not, and other trans people have not had good interactions with them. So we completely distance ourselves from not only both terms, but from that one community, and they're kind of off in this nebulous bubble, and it's separation.
Mhm.
And it's really important to, I think, focus and listen to um, people in the trans community. By the way, segue there, trans people of color, of any background.
Not non-white.
Yes.
Not that
Yes.
not white trans people aren't as significant, but I mean, we, as happens in any movement or any, push or desire for equality or rights, white people get attention first, and non-white people, their human right to have those same things is always secondary in society, unfortunately. So
Well,
it
I
is
think,
to talk about.
yeah. Well, this is why I like that we're talking about this version of Mulan, because they did hire a lot. I think, yeah, everyone was Chinese. I believe the entire cast were Chinese actors. And again, it was a lot more culturally sensitive and accurate from everything that I know, just historically, just my limited knowledge. And that was really nice to see. It was really nice to see a Chinese cast, for example, like completely, to the best of my knowledge. There may have been
Also,
actors from,
I love that they were uh, Chinese, not
yes,
Chinese American, because they didn't have English accents. They were not native
yes.
English speakers, and that fact was not hidden or downplayed at all, which I thought was great.
Yeah, and I really also like the "What's Your Ideal Woman" scene. That I feel translated really well from the song, and that was, I think, out of all of the translations from the original song to different parts of the film, that scene I think was the most well done.
Absolutely. I do, though. I know that we're running out of time, and it was well done, but I do need to like take a
I
moment.
think we've got a little. I think we got at least 10 minutes or so. So
And it was so well done, but I would love to move into like a cinematography point for a moment of this film.
absolutely. It was really pretty.
No,
100%.
oh my god, the choreography, the violence choreography,
Mhm.
the fighting, and the
Love the battle scenes
oh my
and the fight
god,
scenes.
it was
Those were the
amazing.
best part.
It was amazing. And I loved that it was like it was circular, because when Bori Khan is first leading the attack and he stops that arrow right there, and then in the climax you
Yep.
think he's gone, which by the way I loved. I
The
was
kick.
like, really, Disney? It is 2020 and you're gonna do the whole villain dies by falling into the abyss thing? And then no, she actually like kills him, which was great. But
Yeah.
I loved that it circled back. And
With the arch kick too, that she does
that,
the backwards kind of matrix, very Chinese in style as far as cinematic martial arts translated to film, with that slow motion back kick and then the spin where she knocks the arrow into his chest.
yeah, and I loved this. I loved this so much because of course in the animated film, Mulan, when she's presenting as a man, is not that skilled in the beginning, and then of course as their training goes on, they become skilled warrior. But Mulan doesn't really prove themselves until everybody sees Mulan as a woman again. Do you know what I mean? Because
Yeah,
in the animated film and in this film, nobody really sees that ingenious idea of causing the avalanche. Nobody sees Mulan do that.
that
So
was a great scene, by the way. I loved
amazing. It was amazing. But nobody
how
sees
close it
Mulan
was.
do that. So it was great to have all of these people see a woman, a female presenting person actually doing this live action ass
Yes.
kicking scene. And but I will say, like, yes, I know she wields the sword, but there was one part when she like is on the horse coming in. I just wanted, and I know it's a Disney film, so maybe it's a big ask. I just wanted her to like wave that sword and like cut someone's head off or stab them. I do feel like though,
Horseback combat.
no, it's not just a horseback comment. Here is
Would have
a
been cool though. You're right on to
it
see
would have
that.
been amazing. I mean, at some points I was like, is this Game of Thrones? Like, am I watching the Dothraki right now? What's happening?
Yeah,
I
it
do
was really well done.
though that Mulan had less gore violence than the men. Mulan was skilled in her like martial arts, like you were talking about the kicking, and
Hmm.
very true. But you see the man swinging. I don't know what that
The flail.
medieval the
I
spiky
have that in my notes. That was my favorite part. That was so cool.
was amazing, but she gets past him without actually physically touching him, and it is the one one of the one moments that Mulan is saved. But it did bother me a little bit, because I love seeing like this woman ass kicking, groundbreaking stuff. But it bothered me a little bit that she sort of runs up the walls and just scurries past this skirmish and doesn't get her hands dirty in the way that men do. And this is something we see in cinema. Even when women are allowed to fight, it's often in a feminine way. Like, it's very classic. Like anytime a housewife
Yeah.
they hit somebody with a frying pan, or a woman doesn't use
Old tropes.
at all. No, it is these tropes, but a woman doesn't use weapons at all. And that is something that I think they gave to the men and not Mulan, was as much. And yes, she does use a weapon. I mean, she uses a quarterstaff, and she gives Bori Khan a good whacking with that. But her fighting, in my opinion, was far less violent and gory than the men. And again, I know it's a Disney movie, so maybe it's a big ask, and maybe it's too much of a criticism, but
I think they were trying to portray her as more elegant, more using, as Donnie Yen says beautifully, again, Donnie Yen fangirl, mentions that how strong her chi is.
yes. Oh my gosh.
Which is,
We're running out of time. we don't have time to talk about chi, and I literally have a note about chi. Like I made notes too. Yes, very true how strong her chi is, but also women are more, she's more elegant. That's definitely like a dainty feminine thing. So she doesn't get the same nitty gritty that they do. And the reason it bothers me more than in any random movie where a woman is just thrown into a fight scene, the reason it bothers me is because Mulan was put through the same gruesome, excruciating training that the men were, and she surpassed them in it.
Yes.
And then doesn't get to, you know, yes, she outsmarts them. She's smarter than them. That's great. And yes, she's more elegant than them. But she was put through the same grueling training that they were. She left them in the dust, like is running up that mountain with those buckets, and still, when push comes to shove, has to be more reserved and more dainty. Do you know what I mean? That's the reason that it bothers me.
Yeah.
Maybe
makes
it's
sense.
because I was in the military as a woman and it bothers me.
Yes. Well, I'm wondering if that ties into the Phoenix, which was beautiful, by the way.
Oh my God.
Beautiful imagery.
Okay, so I am obsessed with this movie. It's fine. Oh my God.
Also, little sidebar, I did like, I know that you said you didn't like that she bypassed, but I liked, again, tying back into the original, the cinematography for the rooftop chase. And
it's beautiful.
yes.
Oh, it's not okay. It's not that I don't like that she bypassed.
No, I know exactly what you mean about how she left the men to fight.
I love this movie. Don't get me wrong. I love it. And another thing that I love too is the Emperor in this movie. Yes, he is older, but he is not this frail, teeny.
Yes.
So she's not saving, oh, Grandpa, like she's saving this capable.
He stopped an arrow. That was cool.
Yes. And it's much more rewarding than like helping Grandpa across the street. Like, no, she saved this man who was very ready to fight for himself. You know what I mean? He would, if push came to shove, he would have fought with Bory Khan. Whereas in the animated film, he's this frail
man. Yeah, that's a 90s trope. By the way, that final battle, this is my college student coming out, because the old meme, oh, I took two film classes in college, but I did. And my favorite mise en scene was on the beam as the beam was spinning, and they had the wide shot of the two of them.
Oh, it was beautiful. It gave me so much anxiety, but it was beautiful. And I also love that scene because I'm such a nerd. That scene is happening, and I'm looking around, and I was like, oh, I'm like, look at this. It's so amazing. We're getting a glimpse into ancient architecture and how things were built. Like they're on a beam balancing. Their lives are literally hanging in the balance.
Yep.
And Samantha is like, oh, wow, look, kids are learning about ancient architecture. Look at the scaffolding. Like that's what was in my brain.
Well, that ties into East Asian cinema as well, is sort of elevated positions, balance, and focusing on the architecture as well. And again, just there's this recurring trope in Asian cinema, whether it's Japanese, Korean, Chinese, or other cinema through Eastern and Southeastern Asia. There is this recurring trope of just these combatants or these opposites on high places. It comes up in anime too, but that's just one of those great recurring tropes that I really like. But that whole last sequence tied it all together so well.
Borrow from them. That's something American action movies borrow from so much. I mean, I'm sure that you could list a dozen movies where there's a high stakes rooftop scene, and it's exactly like that. It's just amazing.
So I think that's everything I had in my notes. Before I wanted to conclude it with something that we could look forward to, which was just kind of live reacting a second time to the Raya and the Last Dragon trailer. But before I did that, I wanted to see if you had any like last minute final thoughts on Mulan.
We didn't really get to talk about Chi, but I love that they talked about Chi, and
it ties into the Tao Te Ching too, and Taoism.
Yes, and I felt like it was, again, like it explored and respected their culture more.
Yeah.
disliked that the sorceress having this power was seen sort of as a perversion of the chi, but I liked that that idea was brought in general. So, and I mean, that's just like a historical problem as it is, whatever, but I love that that was brought in, because in my spirituality, everything for me is about like this balance in the universe, this balance in that allows us to live. And so I was very excited to hear about it.
No, me too. And again, for anyone watching, and for everyone on social media, we're just two white women talking about the Chinese culture and about the Tao Te Ching and about Qi. And if we get any of it wrong, please let us know in the comments,
Let me know.
or on Twitter. And if you want to send us any reading or anything that we can educate ourselves to learn more about this. I think obviously we've done our own preliminary research, but a lot of it gets lost in translation, especially because it's not our culture. I think we do our best to.
I'm not trying to claim Qi as my, by any means. By any means, I just my basic understanding of Qi is that it is the vital life force of all beings, and that is something, like I said, in my own spirituality and my own version of Wicca that I have created for myself. The important thing for me is this balance and respect between all living things in this universe. And so it makes me happy when I see something that is similar to that in more mainstream culture.
Yeah, exactly. But again, if we miss anything or get anything wrong, 100%, please correct us.
Call me out.
Call us out. Let us know.
Sorry to put that emotional labor on you as well, because it must be exhausting to have to educate people constantly, but I do not ever want to try to appropriate or claim something as my own, or insult somebody in the process of just being excited about something. So please,
Yeah, and again, it's just we're just a kind of talking podcast forum about a couple of things that things that interest us. That's the whole point of ESP, is just having these discussions about pop culture. So, and again, if we get any of it wrong, please correct us.
Yes, please, because again, we're just, like I said, this podcast for me is just things that a couple of like weird friends can get excited about.
Yeah, and again, you're right about it's not other people's responsibility to correct us either. But for those that do want to, we're always trying to improve on the show. I'm always trying to improve personally and be a better person in general and expand my knowledge base. And I know that goes for Sammy too.
Absolutely. So
let's do a reaction.
Oh, I'm so excited.
All right, and thank you to Steve, our tech, and Lucy, by the way, our producer, both amazing people that do amazing work. So
thank you so much for the understanding of the fact that I was stuck in snow and then couldn't open Google Chrome. So
yeah. All right. Okay. So you can see it, right, Sammy?
Yes. I can't hear it though.
Yeah. All right. So I don't know. I'm wondering if there is a way to share the sound.
It's okay.
But if not, we can just talk over it, which is fine, and I can add the sound in later.
The baby is so cool.
Yes.
I love that the baby's part of a con, and it just looks so cool.
I like again with the color palette.
I was just gonna say that. Yep.
Yeah. It reminds me of D&D a little bit, and I hate to relate everything to D&D, but it's one of the biggest elements in my life. But that kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? That kind of slightly flexible as far as history, kind of open world adventure where they're mixing in real locations and other locations. I love the villains undercut, by the way. Oh my God.
We talked about this. Oh, amazing. And as someone who always was so intrigued by mythologies of all kinds, but in my limited American white kid world, really only knew of Egyptian, Greek, and Norse mythology. Seeing other cultures deities, mythologies, legends, represented is amazing. I mean, I was, I know we're getting off topic here, but the people who made Moana made this, getting to know Maui and the Mother Island and all of the mythologies that went into the Polynesian and Pacific Islander culture was amazing. And now we're getting it here. And it's just amazing. And it looks so cool.
Yes. I love the again the mise en scene where she's walking into what looks like a throne room, and again the villain again who's got all these cool weapons and just I love undercuts. Pansexual panic for me.
You said, I know. I was like, I'm like, girl, like, I hear you. So amazing. I can't wait for that to come out. Hopefully, if vaccines are a thing by then and movies are a thing, maybe they'll play it at a drive-in and we can go see it at a drive-in.
That would be really cool because I'm really excited about it. And again, just the imagery and the scenes and kind of adding what seems to be this high fantasy element to it as well, mixed in with, again, actual known cultural locations, but making it their own, making it unique is what it seems like. And that's where I think it ties into that type of D&D feel where, you have
high stakes
hundreds of that too, but you have hundreds of settings that are all based on some pre-established lore or stories, or whether it's Tolkien or whether it's C.S. Lewis or vice versa, or legend, just different legends.
All that.
Yeah, it's stylized, which I like.
Yeah, this is amazing, and I'm super stoked. So I don't know, next time I guess we can do Wonder Woman or other things.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know when Raya is going to come out, but
I know.
yeah.
We'll be there, folks. Don't worry. We'll give you a full review just like this.
And again, just two white women talking about what's talking about pop culture.
Nobody asked us to talk about.
Just
please know that it is out of a deep appreciation for.
Yes. Regardless of what our topics are.
Yes. Everything we talk about is built out of an appreciation for, even when I criticize it, I'm criticizing Disney. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yes. Which you are right to do.
Capitalism. Like,
you are absolutely right to criticize Disney. So
we'll
that is
on that next time.
Yeah, that is exactly 1 full hour. I know. I said we can do 40 minutes.
So yeah. Anyways, I love you so much, and I miss you so much. And
you too.
This.
Likewise.
I wish we were going out for sushi afterwards, as is our tradition.
No. Oh, I forgot. That's what I forgot to do. I forgot to go and grab, because that's that's like our thing.
I was totally going to, and then in my 7-mile-an-hour traffic on Route 3, I went right past New Tokyo. So.
What are we having tonight? I think we're doing. What did you get? Pan-seared salmon. So close enough.
Oh, delicious! I have a pork loin I have to cook. Chris is lucky.
Yes. Well, I'm lucky because Colin is the chef, so Colin does most of the cooking. He's very very engrossed in Breath of the Wild, which is another whole topic, but great game.
Educate me.
Yes.
All right. Well, next time.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Lucy. And thank you, Sammy.
Thank you, Eryn.
And you're welcome. We'll see you next month for another episode. Not Sammy specifically, I don't think, but I think we'll probably plan for like 2 or 3 months.
Perfect, because I have parent-teacher conferences next month, and I'm going to want to die. So pray for me.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Thank you for our. I'm trying to think of a name to call, our small number of fans. Telekinetic unicorns, I think, was one that I came up with.
Oh, what's the thing that you put everything in? The doobly-doo.
The doobly-doo.
The doobly-doo? Can that just be our following? The doobly-doo?
Ooh.
I don't know.
Well, that would be like shorthand.
Okay. Well,
how do you feel about telekinetic unicorns?
Ooh. TKUs, is that what we can call them? I'll come up with something.
I don't know if that means anything. Yeah, I think we're going to ask everyone. Maybe we could have like a different moniker for every guest.
Let's do a Gallup poll.
Okay. Yes.
I love you.
Jordan would love that. Jordan, our political co-host.
Perfect.
I'm gonna tell her that we said that on this episode. She'll probably get a kick out of it.
Let
So
her.
yes. All right. Well, thank you everyone so much
Thank you.
to all of our lovely people that watch us and listen to us just talk about pop culture. So we love you all so much. Thank you for your continued support, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.